Good evening to all of our guests from Europe, and a good morning to those joining from the United States. Welcome to Wine Talks, brought to you by Wine Unites. For those of you who are not aware, Wine Unites is a global platform for wine professionals focused on knowledge sharing and peer support. Globally, wine producers face many of the same challenges, and Wine Unites brings together subject matter experts to provide unique perspectives and novel solutions to shared challenges. Wine Talks is one such platform for industry experts to share their views and perspectives on topics ranging from climate change and sustainability to technology and viticulture. Today, I'd like to welcome Richard Bampfield, Master of Wine and co-founder of the Sustainable Wine Roundtable. If I were to start listing Richard's experiences and accomplishments, we'd be here for a while. So I think it's fair to say that I'll allow him to do that. And the title of Master of Wine says it all in any case. We'll start with Richard talking about sustainable wine, the Sustainable Wine Roundtable, and then we'll open up for some questions. Thank you very much for joining us, Richard. Thank you very much for joining us, our guests. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Karan, and to Wine Unites for the invitation. Delighted to be here. I'm conscious I'm wearing a shirt which has a certain strobe effect sometimes on Zoom, so I apologise. I hope that won't be distracting. Now, I'm going to be talking about the Sustainability Wine Roundtable, and you're probably thinking, not another sustainability programme or project. There are a lot of them around. And I'm conscious sometimes that I already hear people starting to say, oh gosh, everything is about sustainability. Is there nothing else to talk about? And I hate to think that it's a subject that is already causing fatigue because, well, I think we all know that we've got to take it rather more seriously than that. And I mean, basically, sustainability is another way of defining and looking at or describing our long-term future. It's as simple as that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say a few words about the roundtable, and then I'll be happy to answer questions that might arise from that. And to do that, I am just going to share my screen, and hopefully that won't cause too many difficulties. Where am I going here with this? Let's, well, that looked really easy a couple of minutes ago, and now suddenly it is, wait a minute, what have we got here? Here we go, that should do it. Can you all see that? Karen, can you see that clearly? Hopefully that's clear. So, Sustainable Wine Roundtable.
Sorry, Richard, sorry to interrupt you. No, I don't see your screen. I still see you.
Sorry.
At the bottom, you'll see a share screen tab.
Yep.
That's all.
Oh dear. I'm sorry, you can see that the sharing screen bit is not the bit that I'm used to. How about that? Okay, yes. Apologies.
Perfect.
Okay, and we're driving transformational change. I mean, I think we're not the people doing that. I think that's already happening all over the world. I think we can see change in wine, and there are companies and regions that are working towards a sustainable future. So what is the roundtable about? Our concern is that there are all these fabulous sustainable projects all over the world, but they're all independent, and their very diversity and fragmentation means that their impact is diluted, particularly as far as the public are concerned. I think we would all like to see a world where a member of the public, if they want to buy a wine that is sustainably produced, they can easily identify it. And at the moment, I don't think they can. And the trouble is, with all these different programs, if they all come up with different logos and everything else, as I say, their impact is going to be diluted. So the idea here is that we're going to be working towards a sustainability reference standard for wine. And the whole aim, I mentioned earlier about sustainability fatigue, the whole aim is actually to get rid of that. We would like to think that if we do have some sort of standard that individual programs subscribe to, that will make it easier for everybody, particularly the consumer. And that's really where we're coming from, to make it easier for the consumer so they can identify the sustainably produced wines. Fortunately, we're not doing this on our own. There is precedent for this. Other product sectors like forestry, palm oil, coffee, tea, various other product sectors already have reference standards for their community and for their category. So the work has been done before, and we will be following a schedule, a program, and a structure, if you want, that has been successful in other product sectors. We got a unique coalition. I suppose I'll show you a slide in a minute of the founder members that we've brought together, and it shows that we do have people from every sector of the business. And that's what's really important. We're not just there for producers, and most of the sustainability programs that currently exist, for entirely laudable reasons, they're mainly representing producers in their local area or in their country. And that's fine. But we're looking forward to bring together everybody, not just the producers, but also retailers, logistics providers, everything else. Setting the standard, as I say, ultimately, our aim is to develop a standard. And we can only do that if we can involve everybody in the process. And that includes the certification schemes themselves. Again, we're not experts in this field. Fortunately, there are people who are out there who are. And that's why we're engaging them in the process from the start. And finally, clarity and consensus. Now, there are definitions of sustainable wine already out there. The OIV already has one, which I think is compelling. I think it works, certainly. But I think we need to make sure that these definitions are more clearly understood all over the world, and that they're really relevant to every wine producing part of the world. And so we've got to emphasize that relevance. And that means, again, bringing everybody together to make sure that they can see that it's relevant. I know it all sounds very idealistic, but it's not. This is very pragmatic. We have a goal and we intend to reach it. Founding members, if you look at this list, it'll become clear quite early that we're not production driven. As far as I know, nearly every other sustainability scheme is driven by the needs of producers. Ours is driven largely, it's not driven by retailers, but it has retailers at its core. Why? Because what we're about is making sustainability in wine more easily understood to the final consumer, the drinker, and it's the retailers who have the closest point of contact with the consumer. And so if the retailers understand what we're trying to do, they're the ones who can most easily communicate it and inform us, let us know about the challenges on the way, how we're most likely to be able to bring it about. You can see here various other things I wanted to point out. We've got standards bodies involved here, like the BSI. You can see we've got various of the wine sustainability programs around the world. Sustainable Wine Growing British Columbia. What else have we got here? There are others. The Container Institute, the World Wildlife Foundation, Napa Green, of course. So all of these, we've got various different bodies involved. We've also got universities, Geisenheim. It's really important that we involve the academics. We want to be involved in the studies because there's so much research being going on into this area. We'd like to be able to share that because we would like the roundtable and the website to be a hub for sharing resources. I find that frequently I'm speaking at an event and I want it at my fingertips. So how can you quantify the benefits of, for instance, packaging in cardboard rather than glass? What are the figures behind it? We would like to be the resource for that sort of figure. So you don't have to seek that information in lots of different places. You can see that we've also got, as I say, there's retailers, we've got other foundations, fair trade. We're also international. I'm speaking English, and as it happens, several of the people who founded the group are UK based, but it's very important to us that this is not seen as a UK initiative. This is an international initiative, and it can only work if it is seen as truly international and reflecting the needs of different countries. And I know, again, that may sound very idealistic. Well, surely you understand that what defines sustainability in England or Austria is very different to what defines sustainability in the Central Valley in California or warmer parts of South Africa. Of course, there are different needs everywhere. And it could be water, whatever it might be. There are going to be different priorities in each part of the world. But that doesn't mean that they can't all come together to fit in with the sustainability development goals of the United Nations. And that is also going to define what we do to make sure that we can demonstrate to producers, to regional government, and if necessary, national governments, that what we're trying to achieve is in line with each country's SDGs. Ambitious? Yeah, of course it is. You bet, we need to be ambitious. And this is an indication of some of the work that we've already started on. So the global reference standard work, as I say, that's we're following a pattern of work that has already been trodden in other product sectors to bring together information from the various schemes and programs that are already out there. Working groups, as I say, we would like the roundtable to be a resource for information. And so by putting together working groups in different areas that all contribute to wine sustainability, that will provide the materials that enable us and the data that enable us to be that resource. Obviously, the website is going to be key to that. That's the way we're going to communicate, and it's the way anybody who wants to find out more about what we're doing, that'll be their first port of call, I would imagine. So it's important that that is there, both as a source of information, hopefully a source of inspiration and encouragement, and also we'd like to see it as a platform for sharing. A chat, basically, for people to be able to share, ask questions, and find answers. At the moment, I've just shown you who our founder members are, and that's given us a really solid base to work from. We're very grateful to all of them for joining our initiative. General membership will be open early in the first half of 2022. Exactly what that will look like yet, we're not too sure, but please believe me, the aim is that everybody can be involved. We don't want to make it, put it out of reach financially for people to be involved. We do see this very much as a collective enterprise in which everybody, however large a producer they are, however small a producer they are, even if they're just an influencer, a single individual, we want you involved. Okay, because it's important work and everybody can contribute. And then we'll also be putting together a virtual conference in the middle of 2022, and that will act as a focus, if you want, for some of the work we're doing in the first half of the year, to pull together some of the strands and to pull together some of the speakers and the companies and organizations that are involved in our work. If you would like to know more, please do get in touch. There's the website there, and that's probably the best place to get in touch. I think I should be relatively easy to find on social media or elsewhere, or through the Institute of Masters of Wine website if you'd like to get in touch with me as well. But we would like all involvement, all questions. We're under no illusions. What we're trying to do is long term. It'll take several years probably to achieve this. That's been the case in other product sectors, but we're in it for the long haul, and we would welcome as much involvement from people involved with Wine Unites as possible. And I'd like to see this as a continuing partnership, really, because I think we can help probably with what you're doing, because for what I understand, Wine Unites is all about bringing together and sharing of information. That's exactly what we're doing too, but in a more defined field, I suppose. Right, Karen, thank you. I've said pretty much all I wanted to explain what we're about. I hope that wasn't too muddled. I'd welcome any thoughts and questions.
Thank you, Richard. I think that's extremely informative and a fairly fantastic initiative. I think it's much needed as well. Uh, Sustainability is just as important or just connected to climate change, and we're all feeling the impacts of it all the time already. We will be following the activities of the SWR, and we'll keep sharing important updates with our members. So do keep us posted. I don't yeah, questions are open. If anybody has any questions for Richard, you can use the question and answer feature on Zoom to ask. While we wait, I wanted to ask you something you touched upon in your talk as well. Sustainability means different things in different places. And what I understand, what the SWR is also trying to do is create that common vision and definition of sustainability. How do you tackle a challenge like that? Water, what you mentioned, in some places you have a lot, and it may be not that important to sort of, for example, invest in recycling the water that you're using in your vineyard. But in other places where there is a shortage of water, obviously that becomes more important. So how do you set these different criteria for different regions, different types of grapes that are grown? And I guess the other big challenge is, how do you make sure everybody agrees to abide by those standards?
Look, we'll find out as we go along. But to answer your first question, I think the main answer to the question is, I think a lot of what happens in terms of sustainability can be grouped under certain headings. And that's why we're establishing the working groups, so that we can see what those main headings are. So something like waste or recycling or water usage, all of these are relevant everywhere in the world. So those can be headings. They might be given a different weighting in different parts of the world, but there are certain headings. It could be also, I'd say, things like transport, packaging. All of these are common to all producers and all businesses involved in wine. So I think quite a lot of it can be grouped together under certain headings, and the aim, I imagine, will be to sort of benchmark different schemes and see how they're performing under those different headings. So that's one side of it. The other side of it, which I like to think we'll be able to do, because I think it helps show that wine is part of the world's initiative in a broader context. So I mentioned the United Nations SDGs. Each country has different SDGs. I think that one way we'll be able to assess how countries are, to benchmark what they're doing, will be to try and align what they're doing with wine sustainability with their country's SDGs. Because an awful lot of work has gone into those SDGs. They're obviously relevant, and ultimately that is what each government is going to be, their performance will be measured by in terms of sustainability. So I suspect there's quite a lot that we can take from those in terms of helping establish what the key metrics are for each region. And I should say that the idea here is not to, I mean, I'm not a big fan of schemes which set the bar so high that only a certain number of producers or the wealthiest producers can reach the bar. I think it's very important that this is set at a level that as many people as possible feel that they can reach it, even if not immediately, that as many businesses as possible can reach it.
Absolutely. I agree with you that you don't always have to take the full 100 steps, even if you can take 20 or 30 and it's within your means. A lot of people doing those steps will have a massive impact on the world in any case.
Yeah.
So yeah. Hopefully we can see more of that going forward as well. And yeah, you touched upon packaging and recycling. That seems to be a very common trend and conversation these days, with using glass bottles, heavy bottles versus light bottles, and moving to aluminum cans, etc. And it'll be interesting, I think, to see how wine producers tackle these kind of issues, because if you're getting your cans from halfway across the world, you might be packaging your wine in a can, but yeah, the carbon involved in shipping all of those cans from let's say, China to the United States. How does that play into the whole conversation will also be interesting to see, and how people approach these kind of challenges. It
certainly will. And look, we're conscious that in some cases we're going to be challenging people's existing priorities. Wine is an agricultural product, or grapes are an agricultural product. And so it's not surprising that an awful lot of the focus has been on the way grapes are grown and the impact on the environment in a vineyard, possibly because that's one of the easiest things to measure. But actually, when you look at the figures in terms of wine's CO2 emissions, what happens in the vineyard is a relatively small part of it. The glass bottle and transport between them account for getting on between 40 and 50% of a wine's carbon footprint. So we can't ignore those. They're absolutely critical. And that again is why it's so important to have everybody involved in the business, the logistics companies, the retailers, the distributors, the importers, also involved in what we're trying to do, because that is such a critical sector.
Absolutely. In a second, we have a question from the audience. Peter Sims, I hope I'm saying your name right, asks, once people reach the bar, I assume the bar will go higher and higher to make it even better?
It's a good question, and it's actually not one that I can answer at the moment. All I will say is that I think that there are standards out there where there are different levels. I'm not sure exactly how that works, and I'm not sure how ours will work. We're nowhere near to that level yet. But I do think that with the schemes that I most admire internationally at the moment, continuous improvement, constantly striving to improve your results, are part of the process. They are part of the standard. And so I suppose one can imagine that some sort of commitment to continuous improvement would be part of retaining the standard, yes.
Yes, and I think as we move along in 5 years, 8 years, 10 years time, we'll understand newer challenges and understand better what we need to work on and focus more on. And that would also perhaps dictate what the bar is for different types of sustainability or different topics within the sustainability conversation itself. We have one more. Dominic would like to ask, Sustainable Wines of GB scheme for Wine GB members has a program of constant improvement, he says.
Yeah. Thanks, Dominic. Absolutely. And I think that it's actually, I mean, it's yet another really good scheme, the Wines GB one. It's a recent one. And they, I know, have drawn on initiatives from other parts of the world. So it's a well-informed scheme. And yes, I think it's logical that is a component of what we're finally after.
Yeah. Is there anybody else who would like to ask a question? We are close to running out of time. In case there's nothing else, I would like to take this opportunity to once again thank Richard for taking time out and speaking to all of us today. And I would like to give a sincere thanks to all you members who have attended this talk today. There will be a recording of this that we will make available, because we have a fair number of our audience in Australia and New Zealand who, because of the time difference, could obviously not make this talk. And in case anybody else would like to follow up on this, get in touch with Richard or get in touch with us, let us know. We'd be happy to make a connection as well. Richard's details he had already shared. But yeah, it's not too difficult to find a master of wine using the internet these days. I found them. I'm sure anybody else will as well. I think that's about it.
Karen, thanks again very much for the invitation. Thanks to all those who have listened. And as Karen has said, if anyone would like to get in touch, please do. We would welcome your involvement.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks, Richard. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening.
And all the best.
Happy New Year to everybody.
And to you.
Stay safe.
Okay. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.